Well, hello there. This is Lecture 10. And as you know, in Lecture 10, we are continuing with Unit 5. Welcome back. Unit 5, Changes in the American Family. Now, I hope all of you have listened to the lecture, which I presented last time, because that's the basis of so much of what we're going to do today. So really, I hope you've done that, because then you'll benefit from what we are doing today. You see here on this page, to remind you of the subject, the changes in the American family, and you see on the one side the family, the traditional family of 50 years ago, the one we heard about in Father Knows Best, and then we see the modern family, which is very different. You see, in the modern family, both of them are leaving for work, taking the child with them, probably to daycare, as you remember. So that was our subject. And vocabulary that you noted in the lecture that you listened to, the cost of living, how much we have to pay for everything we need, daycare center, a place for children to be taken care of while the parents are working, flexibility. You remember hearing about flexibility, how today companies try to be flexible so that their workers can have different times, and so maybe father and mother can work at different times and be at home with the child. We had also the homemaker. Homemaker is a nice term for a housewife. Homemaker is a lady whose major job is to take care of the house. Maternity leave, maternity having to do with the mother. Maternity leave, the time off for a woman when she has a child. Maternity, if it was a father, would be paternity. Mater, pater, Latin, the mother and father. Opportunity, chances. We heard that today women have many more chances to work, and that's why there are more married women today. And policy. Policy is what you decide to do. A government has a policy, university has a policy, even a family has a policy, how they decide to do things. The verbs, to benefit, can be also a noun, something that's useful. You heard that many things benefit the workers today. So we heard about flexible time, maternity leave. All of these are benefits, and we can use as a verb, benefit the worker. To afford or not afford. I can afford means I have enough money. Can't afford means I don't. It can be used of money or time. Today, most families can't afford to have only one salary, as we heard in the lecture. Transfer. You remember in the lecture that today, if a father is transferred from one place to another, the company may try to find a job also for the mother, who will have to also transfer. And then volunteer. Volunteer, doing things willingly. Now, in the traditional family, the homemaker, the housewife, had time to do volunteer work, maybe helping at the school, helping at the library, but if she is working, there is no one there to do the volunteer work. And finally, adjective, flexible. We had flexibility, flexible, able to change. So these were all terms. Now, some notes about strategies in note-taking. We had here about taking notes when you hear, for example, for instance, as an example, such as. You are not going to write down all of those words. It would be a waste of time. The standard abbreviation in English for this is E period, G period. If you prefer to put EX dot, that's okay, but remember it could mean so many other things, whereas E period, G period is distinct. Maybe that is an abbreviation you should put into your note-taking vocabulary, E.g. Now we're going to look at some examples of how you would take notes using this information. And here we're going to have some examples. I've already supplied them, and you can see if you'd like to do this on your own, you could check the examples later. For example, we're now going to look at number 1. This is the sentence for which these notes were taken down. Today, more than half the students in American medical schools are women. For example, today, more than half the students in American medical schools are women. Notice, e.g., 1/2 med students equal women, showing you how to get the keywords and use symbols. Notice our symbols here, 1/2, the number, also the equal sign. Let's look at number 2. What you hear is this. Most American homes don't have a full-time homemaker anymore, and that creates new problems for families. Problems like who takes care of babies and old people, who shops, who cooks, who cleans, who volunteers at the children's school, and so on. Now notice again, e.g., for example, who, care babies, old people, who, shop, cook, clean, who, volunteer, school. Notice the e.g. introducing the examples. Number 3, in some countries, companies are required by law to give new parents a paid vacation when they have a new baby. Canada, for instance, has a law like that, but the United States does not. Notice, for example, in Canada, not U.S. Now, I have the technique when I take notes, if it's negative, I like to put an X through it. That's a nice graphic way of indicating something is not true or something does not apply. Remember, when you take notes, you want to be able to come back and see as quickly as possible the various information points that you've taken down. And it's easier to see something graphic than it is to see a word. It takes time to read words, whereas symbols are more easily understood. Now, if you listen to the notes, if you listened to the lecture and took notes, part 1, listen to the first part of the lecture and take notes in the best way you can. If you did that, you should be able to answer these questions. How has the American family changed? Do you remember how it has changed? It's become smaller. We now have single parents, and we have married mothers. Those are ways in which it has changed. What's the main reason for this change? There were different reasons we were given, and the main reason was need for money, higher cost of living. People need the money. Now that is called general. Those are some general points being made. However, when you take notes, you need to get the general points down. That's usually your framework, but you also want to get those individual points inside that framework. And so we're going to look now at the notes. I'm not going to repeat the lecture. You've listened to it, and you may listen to it again as often as you like. But here's an example of some notes, taking notes on this lecture. Changes in the American family. Typical American family, notice Roman 1, that is our first point. A, 1950s, father went to work. I put the arrow, goes to work, mother at home, 2 to 3 children. Those are the basic points. Then B, we heard about the changes today. First, smaller. I didn't put family because that's the subject of the lecture, so really you don't need to put that down. Fewer children. 2, more single parent. I didn't put parents because we don't need grammar when we take notes. 1 father, 1 mother. We also have today married mothers. And then we had some stats, some statistics. 1950, 11% married mothers. 2002, 70% married mothers. Now, it might have been a nice idea to put ditto marks there, but I didn't because I knew it referred to the married mothers. Up to you, you have to decide. Reasons. Money needed, 2 salaries needed. Now, also, more, as you see here, they mention also that there is more opportunity. Now, I didn't write out that where I just put opportune, but that was enough for me to know that's opportunities. New professions open to women. Again, 2 women, I just put an arrow, meaning 4 women. New problems, and here we have what we had in the before. Who take care of babies, grandparents, who shop, cook, clean, volunteer. getting the information down. Then in the second part of the lecture, they talked about some policies, some programs that companies now have to help out regarding this new situation where we no longer have the traditional family. A, paid maternity leave. We heard that in the U.S., 12 weeks, but not always paid. Some paternity leave. In Canada, both maternity and paternity. B, if co, meaning company transfers worker, company finds job for husband, wife. C, flex time. Flex, we should know flex is flexible. We have organized work hours, so husband, wife at different times, more time for children. D, telecommuting. Tele always means by distance, so commuting, working at home, by phone or by computer. U.S., it says 15% of workers are telecommuting, and it is growing, a growing phenomenon. E, we also have daycare. I didn't put daycare centers. To me, it's clear. Daycare at workplace. So notice that you can visit the child during the day, you can bring it to work and back together. So again, understanding that in this case, they are able to visit the child during the day and able to bring the child to work and go back with it together. In conclusion, still difficult for mother and father working, more needed. What? More progress, more possibilities. I hope you're getting the idea that when you take notes, you really want to economize, not to take down too many words. Let's go to the discussion of the lecture at the bottom of the page. Number 1, in the U.S., why are more and more mothers in two-parent families working these days? Well, you heard the reasons. First of all, that there's a higher cost of living, people need it, and secondly, there are more opportunities. How does that compare with what is happening in your home country? Well, I think if we're talking about Saudi Arabia, certainly this is not so true, but of course it is becoming, to a degree, it is going somewhat in that direction with more ladies working. So some of these phenomena may be pertinent. Number 2, with both mothers and fathers working, what new problems do families in the U.S. have? Well, we heard about that. There's a question of who will do the work around the house, who will take care of the children, who will take care of older people, who will do much of the volunteer work. So the role of the homemaker is gone. Who will take the place of that? Number 3, review the 5 programs and policies that some U.S. businessmen have introduced to help working parents. I think you saw them up above: daycare, flexible hours, flex time as they called it, all of these. For each program or policy, talk about the advantages or disadvantages to workers or to employees. Well, the maternity leave is of great importance to the worker, to his wife, or to the husband, but of course it's a problem for the company, because suddenly there's a worker gone. So that's not always so easy. In terms of number B, if transferring workers, well, this is an extra burden for the company to find work for the other mother or father, the other person who is moving. In terms of C, flex time, that requires more organization on the part of the company, but maybe that's not such a problem. D, telecommuting. Well, of course, you can do the work, but it's not quite the same as having the person on the spot. Sometimes you might want them to be doing things. It's not as easy to do it over the phone. And daycare centers, well, that's an expense for a company, but they may feel it's worth it, and it certainly will be of advantage to the workers. And number 4, why don't all U.S. companies offer these programs to their employees? Well, what do you think? It costs money, huh? It costs time. These are things that are an added burden on the company. So, And finally, of the 5 programs and policies, which one would be the most useful for you and your family? Well, that all depends on your circumstances. So you have to think about that yourself. All right, let's go to the next page, which we have here. What would you do? Husband sues wife over housework. Tokyo. A 33-year-old Japanese woman divorced her husband after he demanded that every day she cook him breakfast, iron his pants, and clean the house. The woman worked full-time, but the husband said it was the wife's job to do all the housework. The husband, a 35-year-old public servant, filed a lawsuit demanding that the wife pay him about $38,000 because she did not live up to her end of the marriage arrangement. Well, what do you think about it? I cannot tell you, but that's an interesting modern problem. That was Japan, of course. All right, let's go to part 3. As you know, part 3 is always involved with context. But we're going to begin by looking at linking. You're well aware now, at this point, after doing listening for so many units, both in the first course and this one, that words do not occur alone. When we speak, we're putting words together. And we have a phenomenon called linking. In writing, words are separated by spaces. In speech, words are usually separated by pauses. A pause, we stop. For example, when I address someone, I say, Ahmed, do that. I say, Ahmed, do that. We put a pause between the address, Ahmed, and do that. So I wouldn't say, Ahmed, do that. I say, Ahmed, do that. Okay? Pauses. However, sometimes words don't have pauses between them. The words are linked or connected. Example, please put it in a box. Put it in a box. Put it in a box. Put it in a box is a phrase. We don't pause. We don't say put it in a box. So these are connected. Now, words are linked according to the following rules. In a phrase, when a word ends in a consonant sound and the next word starts with a vowel sound, the 2 words are linked. For example, an eye. Not an eye, an eye. An eye. Huh? Where are, where are. Huh? Run out of, no, run out of. Run out of. Huh? That's read as one unit. We just had put it in a box. Huh? Put it in a box. 2, if a word ends in the vowel sound E as in me, A as in say, I as in I, or oi as in boy, and the next word starts with a vowel, the words are linked with the sound E. For example, the end of, huh? Or say it, huh? Say, a, a. These are diphthongs, so say it. My aunt, I, you hear the I in there? Not my aunt, I, you hear the I linking it. Enjoy it, we don't say enjoy it, I it. There's an E linking those sounds. 3, if a word ends in the vowel sounds, oo as in you, o as in show, ow as in how, and the next word starts with a vowel, the words are linked with the sound w. You are late. You hear the w in there? You are late. Show us. That's why that W ended up on the word there. How are you? Notice when we say how, there's no W. We ended up writing the W because when it's linked, it becomes how are you? So notice these. Note, don't try to memorize these rules. If you practice listening, you will do them automatically. They're part of the phonology of English, so you will do them. But it's just to make you aware of this. You have to be aware when you're listening. Okay, we were there. I think we were blacked out for a minute, but we're back in business now. Okay, here we go. Okay, so pronouncing linked phrases. Listen and repeat the linked phrases. Consonant, sound, and vowels. $50 a month. $50 a month. The check is late. Care about. In an apartment. Get a job. That was consonant, sound, and vowel. Now, rule 2, the end of the month. You hear the E in there? People in my own age, come see us, huh? No way out, way out. The toy is broken. Rule 3, here you will hear the w, grow up, go on. Who is it? Now it's ready. New art, new art, okay? Do you feel that you hear that? Please try it, get used to it, you'll develop your ear. That's something we say, of course, this is your ear, but when we say we mean your ability, you develop your ear as you listen more carefully. This is a very intensive thing, looking at the sounds. Huh? Remember, extensive, intensive. Huh? All right, pronouncing sentences. Listen and repeat these sentences. Notice the stress, intonation, linking, reductions, and phrases. I usually get up at 7 a.m., but today my alarm clock didn't go off. Huh? Get up, go off. Huh? You hear the W in there. Number 2, at 8 a.m. I woke up. Huh? In a panic. My first class was at 8:30, and I couldn't be absent, hear the y in there, be absent, because we were having a test. 3, I jumped out of bed, jumped in my car, and drove off. 5, luckily I found, luckily I, huh? You hear the E in there? Luckily I found a parking spot and I made it to class by 8. I was out of breath and sweating. Breath and sweating. A few people looked at me curiously. Luckily, no one noticed that I wasn't wearing any shoes. Huh? So get used to that. Not something I'm going to test you on, because that's really a matter of speaking. However, you should be aware of it and listen carefully. Now we go on to our contexts. I know you like these contexts, and there will be contexts also on the final exam. As you know, in your context, you hear a conversation, you hear people talking, and you use that information in order to choose the right answer to the question. So let's get to work here now on page 115, Conversation 1. Listen to this man and decide which of these he is: a factory worker, a retired person, a landlord, or a fashion model. Conversation 1. Well, I tell you, things get pretty tough by the end of the month. I don't have any pension, just Social Security. That's only $800 a month. Sometimes the check is late, and the rent is due on the 1st of the month. But do you think the landlord cares? This speaker is which of the following? Now I've chosen for you a retired person. Why? You heard about the pension. You heard he has little money, just Social Security. Now that's a cultural thing. In America, Social Security is the money you get from the government after you finish working. But a pension is the same thing from your company. So from that, we understand that he's a retired person, and that's what he is talking about. Let's listen to number 2. Again, we're choosing among kinds of people: the police, her teacher, her friends, her parents. Let's see who she's talking about. Conversation 2. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a prison. Come home by 10. Don't go there. Don't do that. Turn down the music. They treat me like a baby. They have no respect for my privacy. Who is the speaker talking about? The police, her teacher, her friends? Well, I've chosen for you her parents. Why? Because she's complaining that they say, come home, don't go, don't do, turn down music. Well, that's someone you're living with, huh? And so those are parents. And I think those are typical things that parents say. They say them with good purpose, but young people don't always like to hear it. Number 3. This man is talking, and we want to know where he lives. With his parents, in a college dormitory, alone, or with roommates. So listen. You know, I lived with my parents until I was 18. Then I left home to go to college. There I lived with roommates in an apartment near the campus. When I graduated, I got a job with an engineering firm, got my own place. But last year I lost my job, ran out of money. So what could I do? I came back home. Where does this person live? Well, I chose for you with his parents. We heard he lived in a college, or he lived alone, he lived with roommates, but the question was, where is he living now? He came back home, so that means he's back with his parents. And finally, number 4. After I broke my hip, it was too hard to go on living by myself. I tried living with my son and his family for a while, but their house was too small and noisy. I wanted my privacy. So I came here. And you know, it isn't bad. I have my own doctor, I have good food, and the friends here are my own age. Where is this woman? Now, a retirement home, a house with friends, an apartment, her son's house. Well, we know it's not her son's house because she said she didn't like that. She went somewhere else. Well, we chose retirement home. She broke her hip. She wants privacy. Now she has her own doctor, doesn't complain about the food. So it must be someplace that's organized, and so we're going to choose a retirement home. That is the best choice. Now on the next page of your unit, we have here some discussing lifestyles. Do you know any people like those in the recording? Meaning someone who's retired, someone who's come back to live with their parents, someone who's gone to live in a retirement home. It depends on your circumstances whether you do. If yes, tell about their lifestyles and their problems or difficulties. Tell about the following and answer the questions below. A retired man living on Social Security. Well, that was the first one we had. The second was a teenage girl who feels that her parents treat her like a baby. That was our second example. Next, a young man who lost his job and moved back with his parents or to his parents' house. And finally, an elderly person living in a retirement home. So they asked the questions, as a teenager, how was your relationship with your parents? Did you or do you or did you ever feel that your parents treated you like a baby? I don't know. Hope not. But it's a difficult time when you're a young person becoming an adult. You want your independence and you're living in someone else's home. So maybe you did. I don't know. Next question. In your opinion, is it the government's responsibility to take care of people when they retire? If not, whose responsibility is it? Well, if it's not the government's responsibility, probably it's going to be the responsibility of the family, And that was the original idea of personal care, and probably is true to a great degree here. All right, now we come to the last part of this unit. It's our real-world task. I'm not going to put these on your exam, but they're nice for practice, Real-world task using numbers, percentages, and graphs. Now, you need these numbers when you have these lectures. You need to take notes. In this section, you are going to complete lifestyles, to compare lifestyles in different countries. In Chapter 2, page 38, you practice taking notes on statistics. Review the vocabulary from that page. In this section, you will continue learning how to talk about numbers and percentages. Before you listen, numbers and percentages. Read the following sentences with numbers and percentages. Pay close attention to prepositions. 75% of U.S. women are married by age 30. Of U.S. women. By age 30, 75% of women in the United States have been married. Again, of. Notice if you're taking notes, it's not enough to put 75%. We have to know what we're talking about. 75% of women, 75% of men, 75% of children. It makes a difference. 3. By 2020, the percentage of elderly people in Japan will go from 19% to 25%. Here we had of, but again, from to. Very important indicators if you're taking notes. The lowest to the final. From to, from the beginning to end. Number 4, the number of unmarried Korean women in their 30s rose from 0.5% to 10.7%. Again, from to. 5, China's divorce rate went up by 21.2% in 2004. By. When we give the rate, we indicate the amount. He increased his income by 50%, the amount. Number 6, the number of children declined to 1.6 per family. 2, declined 2. So all of these prepositions are important indicators with the numbers. Pre-listening discussion. Discuss the following questions about your community. In the last 50 years, has the number of working women increased, decreased, or stayed the same? Well, I think it'll be true here, as in most of the world, that the numbers have increased, and probably to a great degree. Number 2, is the divorce rate increasing or decreasing? This I could not say. This varies from one part of the world to the other. And number 3, with whom do older people usually live? Well, this is a traditional society, so usually they would be living with their family. I don't think we have retirement homes here. All right, let's go now to our task. Our task. Now, graphic organizer. We talk about graphic means using pictures. Now, here it's going to be the line graph. You see that graph below there? That's a line graph. And we call it a line graph because we have the points here. See the coordinates? But we mark them with lines, and then we can see the development. You see how here it's very clear we have an upward development. And we're going to see how we would fill in these graphs. Completing the line graphs. Here are the 3 incomplete line graphs. Listen to the information and complete the graphs. The first item is done for you. I've actually done it for you. Please follow along. Graph number 1. Graph 1 gives statistics on American women in the U.S. labor force. In 1960, 37.8% of women had jobs. By 1980, it had jumped to 51.1%. In 1990, it was 57.5%. And in 2003, 61% of American women were working. Now, during that exercise, if you took down the respective numbers, and they were 37.8, went up to 51.1, 57.5, 61, and we connect them with a line, we see a clear development. Of course, we see a great development here, less development here, less. So the increase is becoming less, but there is a continuous increase. Let's go to our next set of graphs. This is about the divorce rate in the United States between 1960 and 2003. As you can see, this is a bit different. Graph 2 shows the divorce rate in the United States in 1960. The divorce rate was just 2.2%, 2.2, per 1,000. 2.2 per 1,000. In 1970, it rose to 3.5. In 1980, it jumped to 5.2. However, it declined in 1990 to 4.7. In 2003, it declined even more to 3.8 per 1,000 people. So here we have a different situation where we took down the various values, 2.2, then we had the increase to 3.5, jumping to 5.2, but then we have a decline, going here 4.7, 3.8. So this line graph nicely shows this development. Now we come to graph number 3. Now graph number 3 is more complicated because we have both X and O. Why? This is about people over age 65 who lived alone. This is 1970 to 2000. Why do we have two sets of points? Because we want to compare men and women. They're different. And so notice the instructions were that you use an O, this is the men, and an X to indicate the women. So on the one graph, we have two indicators. This is the text that you would hear. Graph 3 presents information on people over age 65. In 1970, 35.9% of elderly women lived alone. By comparison, 10.8% of elderly men lived alone. So notice we have two different values here, men 10.8 and women much higher at 35.9. Big differential. Let's move now to 1980.